Lesson 25 is about pronoun antecedents. Before I explain what that is, I want to very quickly remind you what a pronoun is. Remember that a pronoun is a word that replaces a noun, and a noun is a person, place, or thing. So a pronoun is a word that can replace a person, place, or thing in a sentence. There are two kinds of pronouns. There are subject pronouns, and there are object pronouns. Subject pronouns generally appear at the beginning of a sentence, and they tell you who is doing something in a sentence. And they will be I, you, he, she, it, we, they. These are examples of subject pronouns. If the pronoun occurs after a verb, then it's called an object pronoun, and they're slightly different. You wouldn't say, for a subject pronoun, you would say, I went to the store. You wouldn't say, me went to the store. But you would say, he gave me a pencil. So me occurs after the verb, making it an object pronoun. So the object pronouns are me, again, you, him, her, it, us, right? You say, we went to the store, or he gave us a pencil, and them. These are object pronouns. So all of the pronouns that you would be dealing with in pronoun antecedents would be I, you, he, she, it, we, they, me, him, her, us, and them. Those are all of the pronouns that you might deal with. Now, the word antecedents has the word ante in it, and ante means before. So you're dealing with a pronoun. Before you use a pronoun antecedent, you have to have a noun which will come before the pronoun. So we'll look here. Jane is happy that she is learning about the first moon landing. So right away we know that she is the pronoun in this sentence, she. So what noun in this sentence is she replacing? And it's very clearly Jane. Jane is she. Antecedent, it comes before the word she. Jane is happy that she is learning about the first moon landing. Look at the second example. The Apollo 11 crew steadied rocks and brought them back to Earth. What is the pronoun here? You've got an object pronoun, them. What is them referring to? What are the nouns in the sentence? It's Apollo 11 crew, rocks, Earth. Well, it's not Earth because it has to come before the pronoun. So we know it's not Earth. It could be Apollo 11 crew, or it could be rocks. But we've got the verb brought. What was brought back to Earth? It wasn't the crew that was brought back to Earth. It was the rocks that were brought back to Earth. So that's the important word there. One other thing to keep in mind is that the pronoun antecedent has to agree with the noun that's being used. In this case, you've got a plural noun, rocks. It's got an S on it. It's plural. So the pronoun also has to be plural. If it was rock, for example, the Apollo 11 crew studied a rock and brought it back to Earth, because rock is a singular noun, and it would also, you'd have to have a singular pronoun antecedent to match it. So that you don't get confused about the terms, remember that the noun is the pronoun antecedent. Jane is the pronoun antecedent. Rocks is the pronoun antecedent. She and them, these are pronouns. The nouns that they're replacing are the pronoun antecedents. Another thing to keep in mind is that the pronoun has to agree with the gender of the pronoun antecedent. So this can be a little tricky if you're not familiar with English names that might appear in grammar. But if you had a sentence like, Jane saw her name on the list, then Jane, we know this is a girl, so the pronoun could not be he or it has to be her. Jane saw her name on the list. If it was Jane saw his name on the list, or Jane saw its name on the list, it would be wrong. So you have to be very careful about what the pronoun antecedent is. What is the gender and what is the number? How many are there? Here we're going to do some sample exercises. The first one says, during the show the actor forgot blank lines. Now, the word, you're looking for the subject in the sentence, and we have the actor. And actor, it is not clear if it's a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, but it is one. It's not actors, it's actor. So looking at the two choices over here, only one of them is a singular pronoun, and that's her. So there would not be the answer. During the show, the actor forgot her lines. Number 2, Joe and Mai left at 7 a.m. so blank wouldn't be late. The nouns in this sentence, or the subject in this case, is Joe and Mai, a compound subject. So you look at the pronoun choices here. Which of these two choices would match two nouns, or basically a plural subject? And between he and they, the answer has to be they. Joe and Mai left at 7 a.m. so they wouldn't be late. It can't be he because he would match only a single male or a boy noun. Number 3, Roberto gets good marks because blank studies hard. The noun in the sentence is Roberto, who's the subject. Roberto gets good marks because blank studies hard. Given the choices, they and he, Roberto is just one person, so they cannot be the answer, it can only be he. Roberto gets good marks because he studies hard. Number 4 is an example of a pronoun matching a pronoun antecedent in the previous sentence. You've got, in the first part, that box is heavy. So we're talking about a box, that's the noun. It's a singular noun, it's not male or female, it's a box. And then we go into the next sentence, don't lift blank. So given the choices, we've got a singular choice, it, and a plural pronoun, them. Since it is not a plural pronoun antecedent, we have to go with it. That box is heavy, don't lift it. If it was those boxes are heavy, then it might be don't lift them. Number 5, the children are eating lunches. We're missing a word here. Children is the noun. It's a plural noun. Even though it doesn't have an S, it's an irregular plural noun. So we know between our choices here, his and their. His is a singular male object pronoun, so that's not it. The answer has to be there. Number 6, the dog wagged blank tail. Dog is the noun. We don't really care so much in grammar if it's a boy dog or a girl dog. We tend to think of dogs in grammar as its. And it's a single noun, so the dog wagged blank tail. It can only be its because it is not multiple dogs, it is just one dog. Number 7, Emily brought a book with blank to read. Emily is the noun. You also got book here. Now this can be a little confusing. Emily brought a book with blank to read. You wouldn't say a book with a book to read. You just have to think if it makes sense or not. But who's bringing the book? Emily's bringing it for herself to read. And Emily, we know, is a singular noun, and Emily is a girl's name. But even if you don't know that, when you look at the choices over here, both she and her are pronouns connected with a female or a girl. But which one do we choose? In this case, you have to think about whether it is a subject pronoun or an object pronoun. And you do that by first identifying what is the verb in the sentence. In this case, it's brought. Emily brought a book with blank to read. Because the pronoun happens after the verb, then it has to be an object pronoun. She is a subject pronoun. Her is an object pronoun. Emily brought a book with her to read. So the answer is her. Number 8. Jack was so mad that blank screamed out loud. You've got a couple of verbs here. You've got was and you've got screamed. And the noun is Jack. So Jack is a single male. But looking over here, they're both male pronouns. So which one is going to go into the blank here to answer the question? Just because the pronoun is coming before a verb, before another verb, it has to be a subject pronoun. Because who screamed? You could say here, Jack screamed out loud. Jack was so mad that Jack screamed out loud. So which of these two pronouns would replace Jack in that sentence, in that part of the sentence, meaning just before a verb? And you'd have to say he, because his is an object pronoun, not a subject pronoun. Number 9, the girl washed blank hands. You've got the noun girl, you've got the verb here, which means that it's going to be an object pronoun following. So you've got two choices between there and her. Girl is just a single noun, so it can only be her. Number 10, only one letter arrived in the mail and blank was a bill. What do we have as far as nouns go? We've got a letter. In the mail, when you come across a prepositional phrase in the sentence, just cross it out because it will confuse you. Only one letter arrived and blank was a bill. So arrived is the verb. You're going to have an object pronoun here. Normally, in this case, sorry, you've got a verb here, was, so you need to have a subject pronoun before it. But looking at the choices, it doesn't matter. Letter is just a single letter. It even says one right there. So it's a single letter coming before a verb, which means it's going to be a subject pronoun, it. Number 11, the apples are red, but blank are not ripe yet. The subject, we've got apples are red. That's a complete independent sentence on its own, but blank are not ripe yet. You've got a comma and a conjunction, which means you're starting the second part of this compound sentence. So you do need a subject pronoun here, and you look back at the previous sentence to find the pronoun antecedent, and the only noun you've got here is apples, and it's a plural noun. It's got an S on it. So in this blank, we need to have a plural pronoun that is for subjects, and that means they. The apples are red, but they are not ripe yet. And finally, number 12, the cars moved so slowly that the bikes passed blank. You've got some nouns here. You've got cars and bikes. The cars moved so slowly that, you've kind of got a new part of the sentence here that'll need a new subject, that the bikes passed blank. So bikes is the new subject in this part of the sentence. Bikes passed something. What did the bikes pass? Well, the bikes didn't pass the bikes, and you've only got one other noun here, which is cars, so the bikes passed the cars. Which of these two pronouns will replace the cars? It has to be plural because cars is a plural noun. So between the choices them and it, only them is a plural, is a pronoun that would match a plural noun, so the answer is them. In closing, remember 3 things. Make sure that you match singular nouns with singular pronouns and plural nouns with plural pronouns. Make sure that you know if there's a name, if it's a male or female, if it's a boy or a girl, so that you match it to the correct pronoun. And finally, and this will be the tricky part, make sure you know whether or not you need a subject pronoun or an object pronoun. And the trick for that is to look and see, does the pronoun come right before a verb or does it come after a verb? If it comes before a verb, then it's going to be a subject pronoun. If it comes after a verb, it's an object pronoun.